welcome to West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Mike Patton and my brothers and sisters in the West Bloomfield Police Department, welcome to another show. Folks, I've told you before, and this fits that mold, I'm so happy when I get to interview friends of mine, and today I have two of them here. We'd like to welcome Steve Corry. Steve, how are you?
Good, Rick. How are you?
And Danny O'Rourke.
Always good to see you, Rick.
Nice seeing you guys. It's good to have you here. And these gentlemen are Unity Tour cyclists, and they ride their bikes and have ridden them in the past for the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Guys, don't run away. We're going to do a segment we call a Corner Spotlight, where we remember an employee in the West Bloomfield Police Department. Folks, if you look on the screen, you will see the smiling face of Police Cadet Mackenzie Crandall. Mackenzie's a relative newbie in the police department. He's been here since October of 2014, so he served the police department for about 10 months. He doesn't have any previous law enforcement experience as a police officer, but he did do an internship with the Michigan State Police at their Paw Paw post, and he thought that was very exciting. You know, I've talked with Mackenzie quite a bit. He's excited to be here. In fact, he says being a police officer is his dream job, what he's always wanted. And I hope, Mackenzie, because I love to see people have their dreams fulfilled, I hope one day you will be a police officer, and hopefully you'll be a police officer here in West Bloomfield. His favorite food, Mackenzie, I got to tell you, the first to tell me this, submarine sandwiches. I don't know which submarine you like best, but enjoy them to your heart's content. And his favorite book is the Bible. And of course, as Mackenzie knows, and I know that is really a conglomeration of many books, but he said that's his favorite. His favorite movie, Princess Bride, 1987 movie starring Robin Wright and Peter Falk. I've got to tell you, I've never seen that movie, but he says he likes it and it's very enjoyable. Favorite music? Christian rock, and Christian rock's kind of rock and roll with a moral backbeat. That's the way I look at it, but that's his favorite. And when I asked him about accomplishments and hobbies, he said he was particularly proud of the fact that he has a bachelor's degree with a double major, one in criminal justice and the other in social psychology from Western Michigan University, and both of those things will be very helpful in your position as a police officer. Currently, Mackenzie's in the seminary. He's trying to obtain a master's degree in divinity. So it takes a lot of work to get that. Keep it up. We're proud of you for going that extra mile. He also studies Taekwondo and is at the Bodan rank, and I believe I said that correctly. I know he'll tell me if I didn't, which is a black and red belt, which is just below, one notch below a black belt. So if you ever see Mackenzie, don't let that quiet demeanor fool you, because with all that Taekwondo stuff, you don't want to get in his way. I know I don't. Now that I've learned that, it's yes, Mackenzie, whatever you'd like. He's actually a great guy, and I'm only teasing about that. So hopefully you do well here, Mackenzie, and you're very successful. And you know, to fit his quiet demeanor, he picked a quote that really fits his personality. Don't brag, just shine. Mackenzie, keep shining, and I will see you at the barn. We're going to turn the corner spotlight off on Mackenzie Crandall, police cadet, and we're going to go to our law enforcement fact. Folks, we've been talking about the history of law enforcement as far as memorials and when President Kennedy first started all this. I don't know if you're aware, but in May of 2013, when we had the Law Enforcement Week, which is always in May, as designated by President Kennedy, on that particular day, President Barack Obama paid tribute to 143 fallen officers who had given their lives in the line of duty in 2012. And one of those officers was our very own Sergeant Patrick O'Rourke. And on that day, he also met his lovely wife Amy and their children and paid tribute to them for their sacrifice as well. And one of the things that the president said, he said, "We are grateful to them and to you." So President Obama, we thank you for those kind words, and we hope that the entire nation feels as you do towards our fallen officers. So folks, please stick around, don't run away, and we'll be right back with my friends and our guests, Steve Corry and Danny O'Rourke, Unity Tour cyclists. Come on back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
After the tragic loss of an officer in the line of duty, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors provide support to surviving law enforcement families and co-workers. To learn more about My Cops and upcoming events, or for information on how you can help, visit micops.org or call 877-464-2677.
Hello, folks. We're back. I'd like to introduce you to my friends, Steve Corry. Steve.
Rick. Nice to see you.
And Danny O'Rourke.
Hi, Rick.
Again, good to see you guys. And Steve, of course, we knew each other prior to that fateful day in September of 2012. But we've gotten to know each other much better since then.
Much.
Danny, I don't think you and I had ever met prior to that. And even though it's a pleasure to call you friend, it's one of those situations that it would have been great to find your friendship in another fashion.
Absolutely.
And so the folks, so they'll know, Steve, you are Patrick's father-in-law.
I am.
And Danny, my last name, hopefully they've guessed, you are his brother.
That's correct.
And so you guys had a tremendous loss, as we all did, but particularly you guys. But reason we're here today is to talk about something that both of you got involved in as a result of Patrick's death and learning about all these things that people do to support the families of fallen officers, of which you guys have unfortunately become a part of, and that is the Police Unity Tour. Who wants to start out explaining what that's about? Because I don't think most people have any clue. Steve, go ahead.
I sure did.
As a senior member.
Thanks. Yeah, I had no idea what it was or even what the memorial was, the police memorial in Washington, D.C. And after Patrick had died, my son, Kyle, found out about the Unity Tour and enrolled in it. And he told me about it. And I got intrigued, so I did a little bit of work, and I said, man, that's something I've got to do. And I'm not the most fit character in the world, so it's had some preparation time, but we called the Unity Tour to find out if there was any space available, because it was kind of late in the year. And they actually, in Chapter 9, which we rode with, made space for us, and we just started getting ready and took off. But the whole purpose of the tour is to support the memorial and then to bring awareness of officers that have been lost.
Well, let's talk about that. What is the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund? Danny, would you like to hit on that one?
Well, it's a fund that raises money for the upkeep of the memorial. The Unity Tour ride itself started in 1997. An officer named Pat Montori of the Florham Park, New Jersey Police Department wanted to raise money for the memorial. So he decided to do a bike ride from New Jersey to the memorial wall. And there were 18 riders that year. That's all they had. 4-day ride. And then when they got there, they presented a check for $18,000 to the memorial. And that started at 1997. This past May, there were 1,800 riders, and they presented a check for $1,997,000 to the memorial. There
1,800 riders.
1,800. There are 1,800 members, I guess you'd say, across the country now, representing 40 states. There are 9 chapters throughout the United States that all converge on the basically the New Jersey area during Police Week, and all ride in from points around there into DC and end at the wall. There are even members representing Australia, England, Israel, Italy, India, and Canada that have been in that ride. So what started as just one officer's idea turned into a nationwide event, and to date they've raised just under $18 million for the memorial. And $5 million of that actually is for the museum that they want to build. Hopefully within the next 3 years. It's actually going to be underneath the memorial. It's going to be an incredible thing.
Right.
But the memorial itself obviously has the names engraved of every officer that's been killed in the line of duty, dating back to the 1800s and before.
Actually, 1791.
1791.
1791, the first 2 American law officers were killed in the line of duty And we did that as one of our law enforcement facts on the previous show. And yeah, 1791, it was out of, I think, Albany County, New York. So, and that's the first known law enforcement officer.
Right.
Of course, they had officers before that, and their memories may be known to God alone at this point. But yeah, that's quite an amazing thing. And that officer who started, is he still with us?
Yes, now he's the police chief of Florham Park, New Jersey Police. So
God bless him for that.
yeah, and he's also on the board of the Police Unity Tour. He's the founder and CEO of the Police Unity Tour.
Okay.
So he's still very active.
Right.
That ride is open to law enforcement personnel and surviving family members.
Now, did you both ride for the same chapter?
I believe.
What chapter
You-
did you
you
ride
were on
as?
one,
to?
didn't
Yeah,
you?
that's right. I was chapter 1. The
Chapter 1 has it's a fun one to ride in because a lot of the Detroit area officers ride in that.
Okay.
I was in Chapter 9, which we rode from Philadelphia to Washington.
Okay.
And a lot of we have a lot of officers from Maryland. We had a couple from Wisconsin were there, of course Michigan, but not Chapter 1 that Danny rode in. I think is a fun one.
Yeah.
I think they
It's
have a
the
good time.
biggest one,
Yeah, it's the
for
biggest
sure.
one. Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that now. You rode with Chapter 9.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the process if you want to ride. Let's say I wanted to ride. What do I have to do?
Well, the first thing we do is you contact the particular chapter that you want to ride with,
And that's your choice,
yep,
whichever one you
mhm.
want.
And they fill up extremely fast. Like I said, with ours, we have 200 riders in our chapter, and that year we had 202 because my son and I they let us add on.
Now, do they limit the amount of riders?
Yeah, 9 does. I don't know if Chapter 1 does, but 9 does,
Okay.
just from a logistics standpoint. Yeah, and I think every year they've added a couple. Our particular year there was 202. Now last year, I think there was a couple more than that. So,
Okay.
but it's quite an experience.
Yeah.
And then it's just and once you're accepted into the ride, then you set up a personal fundraiser. We each rider on our tour was slightly over $1,800.
Wow.
And it's amazingly easy to raise that once people know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, most guys that were in the ride went over their goal.
Right.
And that's how the funds are raised for the wall.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now, Danny, give me a little bit of your experience while you're riding. How many miles was it from your point A to the destination in D.C.?
It changes a little bit every year as the route changes.
Mhm.
I want to say it was about 280 miles over 4 days. It's a 4-day ride.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, I was going to say, what was the experience like when you're riding? The feedback from the people you may have come in contact with and everything.
That is the best part. For me, the best part is there were several places where we went by schools, and they had the kids were just lined up along the street, slapping hands with the riders, and you know, just people coming out of their businesses, lining the roads. Obviously, these communities know we're coming,
Right.
and it's quite a sight to see. Everybody in uniforms. That's another thing. They're very strict about
Yeah.
what you wear. Everybody looks exactly like this. You know, right down to the black shorts, black socks, and it's just an incredible sight of these hundreds of riders coming through. So yeah, seeing the shouts and everything from the people standing on the side. Yeah.
Pretty heartwarming.
Oh, incredibly. And then riding into the memorial, you
dry
can't do it
eyes.
with a dry eye. You
Right.
cannot.
Right.
I kind of knew what to expect. I thought, but not, you know, not at all. We didn't ride the same year.
Right.
I was a year later than Steve, so I kind of knew what he had been through. But there's nothing that can compare you, to prepare you for riding into that memorial. People lined on both sides. I highly recommend it for any law enforcement.
Oh.
I'll give you a pass, Rick, but I'm calling out your new deputy chief, Kurt Lawson. You need to sign up for this ride, Kurt. 300 miles in 4 days. You can do that backwards,
yeah.
my friend. So you've been called out publicly now. But like I said, I give you a pass, Rick. You
I get grandfathered in, right?
you are grandfathered in.
You know, but that's true because I didn't get to see Steve ride I didn't go down to D.C. that year, but I went down the following year. In fact, went with Steve and Amy and the kids, and that was phenomenal in and of itself, an experience, of course, being there with you guys. And that's when you rode, and you're right, I've got to tell you, when the thousands of bikers that came in, and you know, like you said, you're lined up, and all these just people on both sides, and words cannot describe, at least from my standpoint as an observer, welcoming you guys and gals into D.C. that have done that ride. I can imagine what it was like for you as a participant.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat because the first year, and Danny experienced it too, is the first year they let the survivor families, riders, go in there first. So it's all, and then the officers are following us, and man, it is something else.
Yes,
It's quite an amazing experience.
Well, like you said, they're all coming in, and everyone's high-fiving, and I mean, you just wonder, it's like, okay, do you get tired of clapping? You don't get tired of clapping. I mean, it's just amazing to see all these guys and gals that have done that. And then the motorcycles come in after.
Another really neat sight.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting part of the ride, is that we have a full motorcade escorting us. So when we go through these towns, you know, they're blocking intersections, and people are very much aware if something's going on, and if they don't know it's us by the time the motorcycles go through, they're well aware we're coming.
That's right.
The logistics are just incredible. What they do, the support staff. I mean, they have to move bicycles sometimes from all the hotels, the luggage that they all move while we're riding. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible thing, and I still can't get over the fact that it just started with one guy's idea, and 17 friends that did a 4-mile or 4-day bike ride, and it's turned into this.
Yes. Well, one person can do the right thing and start the snowball rolling if they have the right heart and right intention,
does.
right?
Exactly.
right.
Well, now let's talk a little bit about the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund. I had been to D.C. prior to going last year during Police Week, and it was a lot different seeing the memorial, I guess, under normal circumstances when nobody was there. And I did have an acquaintance that I had worked with at the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Dickerson, who had been killed in line of duty. I saw his name etched on the wall. Patrick's was not at that point because, it was before his time. But it was different. I was there by myself. There's a couple people, and you're seeing this memorial in light of all the other things to see in Washington, D.C. Man, it was totally different going during Police Week. You guys were both there the first year after Patrick died. What was your impression, Steve, when you first got there?
I had no idea what to expect. You hear of all the other walls there, memorial walls, the Vietnam Wall, the World War II wall, and I had no idea. And it's done with such dignity, and it's been there for a while. So the landscaping is all complete, and it's a beautiful wall. But like you say, it becomes real personal when you walk down there to your panel and you see Patrick's name.
Right.
It was just, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It really is. And it is, you look at the sacrifices that have been made by the names there, and it's hard to comprehend and explain.
Yeah.
But it's done marvelous. I can't think of any way they could have done it better.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sight.
Danny, what was your experience going there?
Well, obviously, you mentioned seeing it during Police Week, and it is completely different. During Police Week, they allow pictures and mementos and you name it, taped to the wall. People try not to cover up the names, but there's things taped everywhere. There are police car doors that officers have signed, propped on the lawn. It's almost like a controlled chaos of just stuff. Yeah. And by the way, all of that, everything that is taped to that wall gets taken down. That will be stored at the museum, and there will be a display of those items. But and that's all neat to see. But after the end of Police Week and they clear all that stuff out, that memorial it's serene. It's just absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite pictures, I have a picture of Amy at the wall, kind of crouched down, touching Pat's name, and there's not a soul to be seen behind her. It's like it's a different memorial, and I was glad I stayed long enough to see that, because with all the hustle and bustle of Police Week, as neat as that is to see, the power of that memorial is just during the regular times of the year,
Right.
when you see all the names, and that wall had come into disrepair. It had been dirty. It hadn't been kept up very well. It's this memorial fund that's restored it to what it is now.
Right, and there was also, I know some aspects of that too, because it sits differently than the Vietnam Memorial, which is a completely vertical wall,
Right.
and this one kind of has a bow in it, and it's lower to the ground. Some of the names on the edge of the wall there, due to ice and snow and that,
Yep.
and I know they were kind of wearing, and of course they want to do some great service in preparing that and bolstering it so those names don't disappear. We don't want them to disappear. They are true American heroes. And I agree with you. And it's amazing. They've got the lions on the end. Kind of protecting the pride.
Right.
And
The reflecting pool in the
reflecting
back.
pool.
That's a very nice touch.
Yes.
And then right in the middle, they've got the big emblem, the big seal, a brass seal in the ground that. And it's all lit from the ground up, and it's just, and then on Police Week, they have the thin blue line laser lights that shine over towards the memorial across the street,
Right.
and it's done very well. Very well.
it was. It's what's amazing too is that you have more than one hand in the pot, so to speak, because the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund does the candlelight vigil one night, and then you have the Fraternal Order of Police. It does the meeting on the congressional lawn with the president,
Right.
and yet it's so cohesive.
You wouldn't know there's two.
You wouldn't know there's
different-
two organizations that do that, because they're all working towards a common cause, and it's not just the memory of that officer, but the support and dignities of the families who have lost those officers. And that's impressive as can be. Now, they say. And I know Chief Patton had mentioned this at one of his speeches on Police Memorial Day here in West Bloomfield. There's literally a cop on every corner. That's true.
Oh yeah.
Didn't that impress you to see cops from all over the world there?
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, and there's a police car parade. There's a pipe and drum parade that goes on, and yeah, literally, just police everywhere. It's the safest place in the world for that week.
For a week, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the one thing I thought was impressive too, and I don't know why, I don't want to say it surprised me, but it was just such a wonderful feeling, is that almost everybody in Washington, D.C. that day is focused or is cognizant of the fact that the police are there and what it's about, and just the respect and honor that everybody showed. I think all of law enforcement and their families, even if they didn't go to any of those events, I thought was pretty amazing.
I did too. The first year we were there was the year after Patrick died. I thought, anytime you get into a public forum like that, you think there's going to be these counter protests and that type of thing, and there was nothing. It was just total respect for what was going on, and even people that weren't there were pretty much in awe of what was happening, and it was very impressive. I'd encourage folks to go that week and just see it.
Especially if you've got a family member that's a law
Absolutely.
enforcement officer.
No doubt. That goes without saying. If you haven't been there yet, and you
Even
have
if
a
they
family
haven't
in
been
law,
lost in law.
oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, you need to get
No,
there.
it is one big family. So
That's right.
it's
That's
just-
right. We're all
yeah.
brothers and sisters
Right.
in blue, and we have our extended family. You guys, Danny, we only have a couple of minutes yet, so I just wanted to let the folks know, like, you guys are not cops.
Nope.
You're civilians, but you're related to us. Through Patrick, and others have their own family member. You work for Ford Motor Company. You've been there for years. You've got that nice Patmobile that you named your Mustang. And Steve, you've been a pharmacist for many years, and like I say, we knew each other prior to all this. And you've been you're married to your lovely bride for many, many years. So you don't have to be police to partake in this police unity tour.
You don't have to be police, but you have to at least be a surviving family member.
Absolutely.
Except that you can support the tour.
Absolutely.
And any guys that are running or riding, you know, they need that support. So.
And if they don't even support, let's say, bicyclists like yourself who are riding in the Unity Tour, they can support the Law Enforcement Memorial Fund and make a donation there, and we hope they will.
Definitely.
It's a worthy cause.
Yep.
And I'll be thrilled to donate to Kurt Lawson.
Yes, absolutely. Put me down
Signs
too.
up for the ride.
And this might be my last show. Guys, we're going to remember, and we'd like to acknowledge the service. And folks, we want you to be aware of this, the heroic service of a fallen canine officer. And as you know, when we refer to canine officer, we're referring to the dog. And in this case, we're talking about Canine Freddy, who was killed in the line of duty on October 28, 2009. He worked for the United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Canine Freddy was shot and killed in the city of Dearborn as his handler and other members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force had served a warrant on a warehouse used by a radical Islamic sect involved in terrorism and organized crime. 10 suspects were arrested and charged in connection with the original warrant, and this brave, dedicated dog gave his life serving his community, his country, his agency, and so we bid farewell to this faithful companion who served our country, and we say goodbye to Canine Freddy, and just we want you to know about these brave, wonderful dogs that serve us. Folks, we'd like to thank our special guests, my friends, Steve Corry. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Danny O'Rourke. Thank you, Danny.
Always good to see you, Rick.
And folks, we thank you for watching, and please, if you see them and you see other people who are Unity Tour cyclists, please support them as they help support the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. You can certainly make a donation to the fund as well. We thank you for all your support here in law enforcement, and we thank you for watching West Bloomfield 911 here on Civic Center TV. You can also watch us on civiccentertv.com on the internet at your convenience. On behalf of my brothers and sisters in West Bloomfield, I'm Officer Rick. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Remember, tomorrow is promised to no one, and I'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.